So the Eagles are 2-2 heading into the bye week, but it feels like a lot of deeper issues exist. What do they do over the next couple of weeks to try to right the ship? Should the head coach be on the hot seat? Are changes incoming? I think they have an accountability issue that is bleeding into other areas of the team. And yesterday, one Eagles team captain did something that has the entire fan base in uproar. We'll talk about it all, but welcome into A to Z Philly. I'm RB. You all have been absolutely crushing it. Thank you so much. We hit our goal of 5K subs. We're halfway to 6K. Go down below and hit that red subscribe button if you do enjoy this video and help us hit that goal. But I want to start it off with a question of the day. All of Eagle Nation, please drop your thoughts down below in the comment section. And shout out to Louie here for putting this on Twitter. Very good summation. Two different sets of quarterbacks and head coaches, but an eerily similar order of events. Maybe people should start talking about the consistent two variables and all of this that I don't see enough heat on. My question to Eagle Nation is, who should get the most blame right now? Is it Nick Sirianni? Is it the coaching staff? Is it Jalen Hurts or a certain player or position? Is it Howie Roseman and Jeff Lurie? Give me your thoughts down below. Only in Philadelphia can the Eagles win a Super Bowl in 2017 and just 3 years later the coach gets fired. That's never happened in NFL history. Only in Philadelphia can the Eagles go to a Super Bowl in 2022 and the coach that got us there but lost is almost fired at the end of next season, starts 10-1 and absolutely implodes. This is why I can't be mad at Eagle Nation for having all these confusions and frustrations, because this is uncharted territory, right? It's never happened, and I think people just want some answers or a potential solution. And on this Tuesday afternoon, people are frustrated. They don't know what to do. It's 2-2. You're 4 games into the season. The ceiling has not fallen in yet, but it feels like we're heading there. This is not supposed to be a 9-win team. They are supposed to be a Super Bowl contender. I think everybody should share some blame, but we'll revisit this at the end. Is Howie and Jeffrey the reason that this team doesn't run the ball early in games? Is it the reason that Nick Sirianni doesn't seem to change much and doesn't, I guess, have as much control as maybe we think? Because as they say, he's a puppet head coach. There has to be some answers here. The Eagles have an accountability issue. It starts with Nick Sirianni. I don't think I'm calling for anybody's job yet, but it feels like we're trending there, because if you don't come out of the bye and dominate the Cleveland Browns, the lowly Browns, and nothing changes after having a couple weeks to go over things, you are in serious trouble, and this season is in serious jeopardy. But I think it stems over to the players, and here is the accountability problem that I have with Nick Sirianni and the Eagles. Everybody talks about Nick being this great motivator, right? He doesn't call plays on offense or defense, but he's a, quote, huge motivator. But the players seem to do whatever they want. The other night, we talk about Darius Slay. He comes out after getting shredded. The whole defense got shredded by Baker Mayfield yet again, like they did in January. And immediately after the game, Darius Slay talks about his personal stats and his personal accolades. Then he deleted it shortly after, said he was coming out of character and was sorry. But you're tweeting about your own stats, which I guess are more important than the team's success, right? And then yesterday, Darius Slay goes on Twitter. He blocks myself as well as other Eagle fans, and everybody starts to get in an uproar. Why? Because all we said was he shouldn't be going on a podcast with a division rival in Micah Parsons and joking. But I just want to preface this by saying I'm a big fan of Darius Slay. I've been a big advocate of Slay since he got to Philly, even when it looked like he was gone before last year. I said, bring him back. He's worth it. Yes, he's getting older. Yes, he's aging, but he can still play. And I do think he's been a great corner in this league for a long time. So I like Slay. I've also never been blocked by a Philly athlete, which again, I really don't care about being blocked. But the fact of the matter is, why are you taking it out on Eagle fans who are frustrated with the optics of this? That's my whole thing. There's no accountability. It seems like there's no care that your defense just got lit up by Baker Mayfield. And Darius Slay goes on a podcast with a division rival, a Dallas Cowboy, by the way. You guys can be friends off the field, no problem. But the day after you get obliterated, you're going on here with Micah Parsons. And what did they talk about? CJ Gardner-Johnson. They were joking. And I know it was a joke, but they're smiling about CJ getting roasted by the Buccaneers. What do you think that does? This is how you break up a locker room. You think CJ Gardner-Johnson's not mad? Well, he just put out a reaction today on his Instagram story, and he says, damn. So CJ Gardner-Johnson reacts to Darius Slay going on that podcast and joking about him getting roasted. Imagine being on a team and you just had the worst game of your life and your teammates out there with your division rival making fun of it. I mean, it's just not a good optic. So all I said here on Twitter was, this is not a good time to go smiling on a podcast with a Dallas Cowboy. I didn't tag Darius Slay. I didn't message him. And he took the time to personally search up tweets that were talking about him, including myself and a handful of other Eagle fans, and decided to block all of them. I know it's tough to play in Philly. I know it's a tough city. But at some point, man, you just have to understand the culture and the vibe. Ultimately, he is soft. He is soft, and he's a team captain. This is supposed to be a leader of the defense, and this is the type of example you are setting. You know who wasn't a team captain? Devontae Smith. You know what Devontae Smith does after a bad game? He goes home, stays off social media, stays in the house, stays quiet and humble, and probably watches film on how to get better. And you can visually see him all the time. He's ticked off when the Eagles don't play well, when the offense is sputtering. Devontae Smith is actually pissed off. Does Darius Slay care that the Eagles just got lit up like this, that their defense is getting exposed? Darius Slay has the third highest passer rating allowed in the entire NFL this season. I don't care about the Twitter stuff. I don't care about the block. What I do care about is the optics. You need to take precedent and set example for this team. And ultimately, you need to be better, as that will translate to the rest of the defense. You need to help set a tone. And speaking of setting a tone, Vic Fangio spoke today to the Eagles media about how the Eagles got lit up early in that game. He says, quote, "They came out throwing real fast, real quick, and we weren't tight enough in coverage." Well, whip-de-doo. Thank you, Mr. Captain Obvious here. I mean, what else are you going to say? How are you going to improve this? How are you going to change your scheme? He came out and said nothing today about that. He talked about certain players. He said he likes the progression of this player and that player. We don't care. We want you to be more aggressive. As I said the other day, the Vic Fangio scheme will not work. It is not sustainable long-term, so he needs to shake something up. You either get extended or ended based on the results of the work that you produce, and that's really what it comes down to. You don't always have the longest leash, and it is just frustrating to see the Eagles defense get lit up like this and not make any adjustments. So they need to figure it out over this bye week. If they come out on both sides of the ball after this bye week doing nothing different, then we need to have a real conversation. And I know it's not always brighter on the other side. Last year, they fire Sean Desai. They bring in Matt Patricia, who was even worse. Vic Fangio also says the Eagles had 15 missed tackles by their count versus the Bucs. A team should not have 15 missed tackles in the game. He pointed mostly to technique for why they missed so many tackles. Aren't you the guy that teaches this technique? Aren't you supposed to help this? They've had these issues for years. They don't get the right personnel, and they don't coach up the guys that they do have. But ultimately, Vic Fangio answers to Nick Sirianni. Nick Sirianni's the head coach, and a lot of people are wondering what he does. He says that the Eagles will be, quote, taking a look at the tackling drills the team currently runs over the bye week. He says he has a pretty good idea of the types of tackles they are consistently missing and that they will be simulating those specific ones. Well, then something needs to change. Put in different players, do something, right? I mean, I feel like we always hear these same traditional answers. We're going to work on that. We're working on this. We're getting better. You know what the problem is. Now fix it. Nick Sirianni has lost 10 of his last 13 games. And you remember when I said back in July and August that the reason they brought in a young 36-year-old Kellen Moore was because if Nick Sirianni doesn't start out hot this season, I think he could get bumped and they could move Kellen Moore into that slot. Now, people are coming up with all kinds of crazy ideas. Let's go hire Bill Belichick over the bye week and he's the savior. He'll fix everything. Let's hire this guy. I don't think there's any coach out there that I would be comfortable right now with inserting in this Eagles team thinking they're going to change everything. Keep in mind, you're 4 weeks into a season. You make a head coaching change from the outside, you're pretty much punting right now. You are pretty much saying we need to bring a different philosophy in 4 weeks into the season. Then the question would be, why did you keep Nick at the end of last season? And also keep in mind that Jeff Lurie and Howie Roseman don't make those type of moves, which again brings me back to the original question. Whose fault is it? Is it Jeff Lurie and Howie Roseman making these calls on game day? Maybe this is the type of coach they want. I could never, ever see them hiring a Bill Belichick type. I think this team can play better football. We've seen that, but I also think we've seen that in the past two regimes, whether it's Frank Reich with the Eagles or Shane Steichen, that those guys were the real masterminds. Really, I mean, we saw Doug Peterson fall apart a couple years after winning the Super Bowl. We've seen Nick Sirianni implode. And I'm usually the type to say that players cannot come back after quitting on a coach. But again, this is uncharted territory. I was willing to see it out and give it another shot. 2-2 doesn't mean the world's falling on you, but you're 500 right now. You're a mediocre football team. Washington is running this division. If you don't change something out of the bye week, then something has to be said. Who's going to come out and fight for this team? Even back to the whole Slay thing, right? We could talk about Gardner-Johnson being a character. Sometimes he goes overboard. But you know what I respect about that guy? He's going to come out every single game prepared and ready to put someone on their butt. Can I say that about everybody else on this team? Do I see that same type of intensity and mentality from these other people? No, I don't always do that. I don't always see that. Eagles special teams coach Michael Clay also came out and said that it falls on him that Isaiah Rodgers didn't know the rule for pushing an opposing player into a punt returner. Pretty much Isaiah Rodgers said the reason he did that on Sunday is because he thought it was still going to be a penalty. He didn't even know the rule. So again, what are these coaches teaching these players? Who gets the blame here? Are these coaches really teaching these guys what to do? I know they're professionals, but sometimes you do need some fine tuning. Nick Sirianni talked about Jahan Dotson, saying the ball went to him when it was supposed to. There were some times where the ball could have gone to him, but something happened that might have took that away. So again, you have to use these weapons. Right now, the Jahan Dotson trade doesn't look that good. Right now, there's other trades on this team, other moves like Bryce, Huff, and others that don't look good. Last season, you trade for Kevin Byard. You bring in linebackers that are scraps. I mean, you let TJ Edwards walk. There's so many moves now that are adding up where we're seeing, again, kind of a bit of the demise of Howie Roseman. I still like Howie, but at the end of the day, he has to result in some of the blame too, because some of these moves are not paying off. Give me all of your thoughts down below in the comment section. As always, appreciate everybody for tapping in. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. That being said, I'll catch you on the next one.
Tap into BetMGM Casino, and you're entering a huge library full of exclusive games. Games you won't find anywhere else. Looking for jackpots? Right this way. You'll always find someone ready to give you a hand. Or some dice. Your favorite game is waiting for you. On BetMGM Casino.